Everybody's okay on our end. That's the old panel cover. Have you ever thought about working longer hours in your business? Have you ever thought about putting forth more elbow grease? Have you ever thought about trying harder for less? Well, join us. We started at 8 a.m. and it is now 8 p.m. However, I'm happy to say, besides the elbow grease part, none of the rest is true. This is Span. And Span is good for business, it's good for homeowners. It's a work of art. Jump in with us. We're gonna walk you through it, the step-by-step, cost, how to differentiate yourself, your business, and the key features of Span. Guys, it's one of the first cold days of the year. I know this looks goofy, but I gotta warm it up. I don't wanna pull a muscle. It's for real. I also learned, what do electricians do during their meditative warm-ups? What do they say? Let's take a look at the tools we're gonna use to execute this project. Got an oscillator for cutting open my drywall. Impact for mounting the panel and removing the old panel. 20-volt drill, making my penetrations through the Span panel. On that front, I've got a hole saw kit. That's a Lennox professional grade hole saw kit, standard electrical sizes, and that baby is going to be punching through the Span panel. Torque wrench for terminating my main lugs to specification, as well as the necessary adapters. If I need to make careful cuts by hand in the drywall, I'll be utilizing this keyhole saw. Basic safety gear, MaxiFlex is my favorite brand. Sharpie Pro and white electrical tape for labeling my circuits so it gets put back together right. Ensuring I've got basic tools that every homeowner has access to. That's a 1000-volt insulated Wiha torque screwdriver. It's only 215 bucks. I highly recommend it. Measuring implement, of course, I love the folding rule. Fishing equipment, digital multimeter for final verification of quality. Shop vac to clean up the mess I'll inevitably be making. Basic hand tools. Now let me show you the basic materials that I know I'm gonna need to have on hand. Being a pro, I've got some things sitting in the wings, but start with these. Romex to extend circuits in case any come up short for their new termination points. Electrical access panels, one for above the panel, one for below the electrical panel, so that we don't have to repair the drywall today because we can cut it surgically to fit, and that will also prevent future drywall repairs and touch-up painting. Shielded Cat 6 for my internet connection between my data distribution point and my Span panel. Electrical wire connectors. Painter's tape, absolutely essential number one. I'll show you that later. A hub for main wire entry into my Span panel. This is a 2-inch Romex connector with my Milbank hub. A couple larger size for larger circuits, Romex connectors. And then this is the FS140 surge protector. I'll demonstrate to you how to install that surge protector for maximum protection. The homeowner is going to have probably $100,000 of connected electronic value to this Span panel, and we want to do everything we can to protect it. Let's see what we've got inside. Hello. It's very nicely packaged for shipping. I've already been into it once, so a lot of the parts have been removed. It's also quite heavy. There's the cover. Looks like the box is undamaged, which is excellent. I'm gonna leave it right in there for now. And now here's the panel. Really, all I'm looking for right now is just any major deficiencies that meet the eye that would prevent us from having a successful install today. Because these are not parts you're gonna buy off the shelf from the local hardware store. So before I rip that panel apart, I just need to have confidence I'm going into a success-filled situation. This is something I've not shown you yet. And it is the Span trim kit for flush mount installations. Very nicely packaged up. Might as well be a rare piece of art or something here. Necessary mounting hardware. figure out which one goes top, which one goes bottom, but looks like a pretty easy install. And that's going to beautify it on the face of the drywall. All right, it looks good. I'm ready to dive into this. Let's go. It's already 11:26. We've gotten bogged down with a couple other things this morning. It's Friday, and I don't think I'm going to be home until 8:30 p.m. Now, I've got power de-energized to the sub panel in the house that we're going to be working on today. My temporary construction power is in. If you want to see how I did that, click the banner card. I'm locked out to avoid accidental tampering and electrocution on this job, and we're ready to get back inside and get to work. We're in the garage. We're putting in a span panel to replace this Eaton panel. The customer's getting about $50,000 to $60,000 worth of 2 Tesla Powerwall 2s and solar on the rooftop getting through the homeowners association right now. So what I've got here is an old-fashioned critical loads panel connected to a generator input. That's a generator plug right there. This is going away. Tim's identifying circuits, and we're going to be ripping this thing out of here. As Tim takes this Eaton panel apart, first step is to have the master plan in mind, begin with the end in mind. So I'm going to count number of knockouts and both size and quantity that I need in the top of the span panel. I need to understand where that span panel is going to sit inside the wall. I need to cut the wall open top and bottom and make sure there aren't obstructions. So I need to look for anything that is going to prevent me from achieving my plan. And once it's mapped out, both in my mind and on the wall in clarity, then I can start drilling holes, seating connectors. We can complete taking this panel apart with confidence. I've got a cut in the wall because what I found out is my span panel is going to fall 4 inches below and 4 inches above the existing panel. So I've cut it open because I am putting an electrical access panel in there, and I just want to make sure I don't have any limitations. Now I do have a wire that exits over here. That's about 7 inches below, so as long as I don't exceed the 4, I should be okay. So far, so good there. Now one of the things I'm doing is I'm intentionally using a hand tool instead of a power tool. I can feel what's at the end of that blade, anything I'm bumping into, and last thing I want to do is damage any conductors. So a little bit of finesse. Ooh, sorry to be in your way. In fact, let me swap you. Okay, no obstructions. I think it's looking good. So what is this panel to the left here? This is the on-cue. It's a structured wiring panel, and it contains the internet equipment. So thankfully, our span does require an internet connection. I've got a pre-made Cat 6 shielded cable that's going to connect from span to that. So it's important to recognize that that indentation is overdone. The dude was playing no games. Actually, absolutely just over-torqued everything. You can see the stress in all the terminals, particularly the main terminals. I'm happy to say the span is NEMA 3R rated. That means outdoor, rain tight. It might even have a slightly higher, like 4 rating. 110.26 in the National Electrical Code, I believe. And it's got a meter hub or closer plate. Can be replaced with a square D or Millbank hub. That's a 2-inch hub. It's going to allow entry of my feeders. The main conductors after the first means of disconnect, which is on the exterior of the home, are called feeders. So those 4/0 aluminum conductors are going to be able to terminate right into, well, let me keep that, this 2-inch Romex connector. I'm not using any no-locks because this is an indoor application. I'm not going to be fighting any corrosive outdoor elements. I'm going to use the packaging that's provided from Span, and I'm going to use it along with this nice wide 2-inch painter's tape to protect the interior electronic components from all the metal filings that I'm going to create by drilling into this electrical panel. it's going to get quite messy. I need to be mindful that I don't damage the antennas or the wires connected to them. And I also need to know where my drywall line will be, because this is about a 6-inch deep electrical panel. So my drywall is going to fall along here. So I need all of my connectors to be in this vicinity. So that's one thing with span, is it gets a little snug. One thing I learned from the first span install is that, man, drilling out this cabinet really makes a mess. And I was absolutely 100% sure to bring the 2-inch painter's tape with me this time. I didn't want to be without that, trying to use electrical tape like I did last time. Ounce of prevention is worth at least a pound of cure. Now, some electricians really complain about this kind of stuff. I didn't get in the trades to become a painter, you know? I'm not doing that kind of stuff. And they just fuss about it. But really, I don't mind. My only criticism is this. One thing span says is, doesn't take any extra time. Well, it's a pretty sleek design. It does take extra time. Look at this. You know, I'm gonna have another 3 hours in this job above and beyond a standard electrical panel upgrade. I love this to pieces. I'm first in line when they go public, but those additional 3 hours on the job, customer education, taping off, drilling out the cabinet, setting up the system, the software side, the Ethernet connection, like there are multiple aspects that take additional work. The trim kit, like it's beautiful. It's worth all of that, but it is 3 hours, in my opinion, of extra time before you become, unless you know you're doing span every day and you become really proficient in the exercise. I will also say additional cost. You're getting span certified, so you're developing a new vendor relationship. You've got to acquire that product through distribution. You've got to learn to sell, right? There's an upfront sales process. You've got to stock additional inventory. So it's not an apples to oranges comparison in any way, shape, or form. It's above and beyond the standard electrical panel in every way. Cost, time, performance, beauty, everything. All right, let's drill out the panel, top and bottom, to make room for our wire entry. All right, we are going to be reusing these breakers. One, they're only, I want to say like 5 years old, and two, span is compatible with Murray, Eaton, Square D Homeline, Siemens, and just a standard 1-inch plug-on breakers, but not GE. So we're going to be using our Eaton breakers in that span. We'll clean them up and blow them off. 6 tight. Let's just drill that side out. I need to get 6 per side. Make sure that's going to work. All right, always check the other side. Get my handle out of the way so I can get tight to the surface. And here we go. I don't think I can wait for that. Can't wait for my corn to grow, and I can't wait for you. 7/8 inch Lennox metal cutting hole saw. So Tim is busting out the knockouts in the sides of the panel for panel mounting purposes. And one thing you'll see is, like I said, the panel is 6 inches deep without the cover on. So what I did is I made a 3.5 inch deep line from the back of the panel. That's the depth of my stud cavity in the wall. So all my holes had to fit in that space. You'll see I've got 6 half-inch holes, and it's maxed. So that is one of the difficulties of span, is just the space constraints. But that's in. You can also see the tremendous mess it makes. Leave the panel in the box. Definitely got to put the protections in place. You're going to regret life if you don't. We're almost ready to put this panel in the wall. It's not going to do it. Oh, it's time to use the vibranium stiletto hammer. Oh. Does that happen? Watch it be a little smaller, because it's a, look at that. What screw is that? Nope. Oh, that wasn't worth anything. It was so close. It's a teaser. I wonder what that is for. Might be for relocating the antennas to the top, from the top to the bottom. You know it? I think that's the case. Might be what these are for as well. It was in the training, but I don't remember. I just don't. There's so many details. Breaker types, sizes, max breaker rating, 90 amps. However, there are feed-through lugs at the bottom. There's just all these little details. All right, what we want to do is get our surge protector dialed in so that we have an offset nibble, so it's not going to be too hard. But we've got quite a bit of grace with an offset nibble, and I'll show you what I mean here on the installation. Now I know what you're thinking. Didn't you just drill an extra hole? I did. I'm adding an extra connector for the next guy, so he doesn't have to drill this out once it's in place and it's not taped up and papered in. So the next guy might be you. For the last hole, I'm using a step bit, and that's because it's already opened up, but I need it to fit 3/4 inch for my surge protector. So Tim's idea, step bit, right tool for the right job. All right, how do you know when you're there? Just check it. The step bits are marked, but for 3/4 inch EMT, I'm looking for a 1/8 inch hole. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. For smaller sizes EMT, 2 inch and below, you add 3/8 to the nominal trade size for your actual hole size. Did you catch that? 2 inch EMT, 2 3/8 hole. 1 inch EMT, 1 3/8 hole. Sizes above 2 inch, like 2.5 inch EMT, you upsize 1/2 inch. So 3 inch EMT, you drill a 3.5 inch hole, whether it's PVC, rigid, IMC, any of that. Now that we have our cabinet fully prepped, what I'm doing here is taking our beauty ring, a drywall finish ring. That span is so nicely put together for us. And I want to make sure that our protecting this is the finished product right here, right? This is what makes it beautiful. So protecting the finished product. Get our drywall mark there. I need to even go a little broader than that, sorry, a little lower, so that I can accommodate the mounting bracket. So what I'm doing is stripping back these cables right here is I am allowing additional wire length to come into my panel for the sake of beautiful terminations. So now I've got a little bit more. I just took that 6 inches I gained by relocating the panel. Now this one's not going to move for me. It is what it is. So we'll just put it like that. Well, that's the inside. I need to mark the outside. Okay, one more time. Repeat the exercise. Slip it on here. I needed the inside. Now I need the outside. Should have marked them both at the same time. So that sit here. All right, beautiful. I'm going to keep the dirt out of this cabinet. I'm going to treat everything gently. This is the on cue. What we need to do, there's not even a knockout for it. Bummer, maybe drill one. What we need to do is bring 2 Cat 6s in here, one for the span and one for just a little cleanup for the homeowner. Okay, there's no insulation in this wall. I guess that's because it's a garage wall. So we've got good depth on that, which indicates to me we are down. We could drill right up that wall and find this fish, which I like. A little bit of sacrifice on the bit there, but I think we got it. A question of finding that hole. There it is. Here's one of the things you have to be thinking about as a producer and a business owner, as an estimator, warehouse manager, is reducing labor, right? So I request for this job a shielded Cat 6, pre-made, factory assembled. No error, no time, no low voltage tools, no getting out boxes of Cat 6, putting them back in the truck, right? Short and sweet. Reduce labor, improve profits anywhere you can. And this is one place. Order the pre-made cables. My opinion. All right, this is the last bit of prep before we tuck the panel into the wall. And there are a lot of circuits, right? So it's going to fight us. We're going to have to line up all these little conductors and get each one of them in the right hole. And if you don't do any taping and prep work, man, when you're holding that heavy electrical panel, that is the heaviest electrical residential electrical panel besides the Schneider all power home deal gig that's like 4 guys to lift it per Dustin Stelzer. That span is heavy, and so you want to have everything dialed in, ready to go here. And it's just one of those things where it is right there, and you're going to get it's going to be little wiggles and snugs and bugs. Doing great. Just keep it up. A couple of them are about to snap in. You go another 1/2 inch. One's in. That one's very close. 2. A little higher. 3.
Mind if I leave you to hold the top?
It will not fall out.
Yeah, okay.
That's what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get a clean seat on these between how bulky these connectors are and how tight our span working, spaced. All right, keep coming. Some of these might end up just kind of being there. There are going to be some complaints in the comments about those connectors are actually not rated to be reused. Well, all right, bring it on up a little higher if you can. Probably one of those things where you've got to kind of shove and I'll wiggle, and here it comes, by golly. Time to talk to the customer and see what he wants us to do about the former mounting boards for the old-fashioned critical loads panel. It's an aesthetic decision. We want him to be happy. Okay, so go ahead and take the boards out. Perfect. Yep, appreciate it. You're trying to figure out what I'm doing. I am actually tightening the screw down on my 2-inch Romex connector that's securing my feeder cable into the hub on the top of the span panel. I just had to grate a little accessory hole to get to it because I couldn't tighten it down until the feeder was in place. So there you have it. This is where you find out all the mistakes you made and all the things you wish you would have done differently. It's right here. Let's terminate the main feeders. These are slotted, so I'm going to pull them out of the way. We'll put them on after the fact. They slide straight out. I love the terminal covers. This is not the first means of disconnect, so grounds and neutrals are separated. So this is my ground bar, and it is bonded to the cabinet back there. This is my neutral bus, and it goes all the way down. So it's not a plug-on neutral panel. However, you do have neutral terminals the full way right there, so you've got to use the pigtail type breakers. That's where the ground bar is bonded to the panel cabinet itself. Span does supply a grounding clip that goes from here to there, or a grounding strap that bonds neutral to ground and neutral to cabinet. However, that has been removed in this case. Comes with the panel. Stanley FatMax has always made a nice product, right? Ouch! However, there is an exposed blade on that thing. It's nice, it's replaceable, super sharp, and pretty durable. It's not often you snap off the blade, but there is a hazard. Cut-resistant gloves always help. However, how about further reducing the hazards? What I've got here is something that you can't even notice. You can't even tell what it is at first glance, right? That's a Jacari, that's a German company. Check this out. Underneath this spring-loaded lever, there is a replaceable blade. It's the full length of the tool. There's quite a bit of pressure there. I'm going to show you how to use it. This is my first time using it, so hopefully I don't make it look harder than it is, but it's pretty sleek. Let's try it out. If you've ever used plumbing tools or any other type of specialized cutter, it's not too dissimilar. It's a purpose-built cutter. They're typically adjustable, but for one very focused use. I'm going to be stripping my main feeder cables in the span panel with the Jacari. That was nice. The Jacari strips clean, right? Man, there was no risk. There was like 2 motions, and I think you could get apprentices started on that Very low cost, low risk. It's like 22 bucks on Amazon. I'm going to put a link in the description, and I'm going to keep using it. That is a win. Win, win, win. Guys, this is something that I have like coveted for quite a while, and I'm super stoked to be using it today. It's my Wiha 1000-volt insulated torque screwdriver set, and I just got it yesterday. Check it out. It's got that beautiful comfort grip Wiha. Oh, it feels so good. It's like just, it's quality. You can feel the quality. I'm about to terminate this entire electrical panel with this right here, and I'm stoked. So they've got an extender. You can plug that extender in there. Comes with some grease. It snaps in so that your bit's out a little bit further. I like that. I like that extra length. And then the bits, of which there are 8, all your standard flathead, Phillips, square, ECX. You like that ECX? They snap in. This is one thing. It's a little bit tight. Oh, it's hard to snap them in. There it goes. Now you won't lose your bit in the panel. So it's 1000-volt insulated. Here's an interesting feature. In order to change the torque, and there's a view window right there. In order to change the torque, you've got to stick this booger in there and turn it. Every 2 inch-pounds is marked. So I'm shooting for 20 inch-pounds. It's 24. There's 20. All right, so I'll terminate the panel and I'll let you know what I think about it, as opposed to my $45 Nico, whatever the heck, uninsulated. I'm stoked. I'm genuinely excited. At this point, the fatigue has set in. My prison sentence is closing in on completion. You know, retro panels, they're just never as clean. I've got these junctions. Those may not be legal in your jurisdiction, but the alternative is junction box in the attic, because it has to be accessible. And do you want to junction every single one of those conductors? See, in this case, the grounds and the hots reached. It's just the neutrals. So I'm junctioning 1 out of 3. There's space in the panel. It's just that fatigue. It's Friday night. It's after 5 p.m. Like, let's wrap this up. Bingo, bango, bongo. Okay, so the whole panel is landed. We've combined the 2 circuits with 3 lever Wago wire nuts. So we've got 2 circuits plus a pigtail into a breaker. We've done that twice. We've freed up some available space. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One beautiful thing about the span panel is every space is space saver or tandem compatible. That's great. So before I do any more fit and finish to beautify the panel, such as zip ties and things of that nature, I'm gonna go check power and turn it on. I've already torqued down the main lugs, so those are good. I'm gonna remove my construction power cord, and if you haven't seen that, you need to check out that video. So I'm gonna remove my lock from the cabinet, flip it on, energize it, test it. If everything's good, power comes back up as expected. Then I'm gonna come back through with the torque screwdriver with the power in the off condition and check everything, tighten it down, fit and finish, and then it's time for commissioning or span setup. I've got the FS140 down there. That's a surge protective device. That's the best place to locate it since I was full up here. You always want your surge protection to be as close to the incoming power as possible. Mine's here, but thankfully my leads are very short. Cut them down to size, don't leave any slack, and try to give at least 1 twist per inch to reduce the inductive reactance. So that's got LED indicators. We'll be looking for that to fire up. All right, power's on. You can tell that the LEDs come off the line side here. So I'm gonna turn on the breaker. That's a tester, but I am about to turn on the breaker. But first let's check. Just check and double check. 246. There it is. 123. 123. 123. Good. All right. I'm gonna turn it on. Oh, it already is on. Look at that. And we're going to start turning on all our circuits. There's only 2 that we couldn't identify. It's the difference between water heater and dryer. So I'm going to find the closer of the 2 if I can. And our spares. We've got garage lights. Things are coming up. Surge protector. So Siemens got a chart, and we picked a surge suppressor that's rated for the state of Indiana off of that chart. This bad boy added $600 to the project right here, but the average home has like $50,000 to $100,000 of connected value by the time you talk about electric vehicles. So I'm going to turn on the 2-pole breaker. We've got a 3/4 inch offset nipple, 2 lock nuts, to our surge, and there it goes. It's live. Those indicators will tell you if you take a hit and the surge fails, but that thing, it's pretty bulletproof. I'm a big fan. Boom! It's always a good look. Oh, more garage lights. All right, nothing kicked, nothing blew. You never know. It's time to put the alligator clip on here and just work our way up. Hold it where I can see it. Just make sure all the breakers are good. Occasionally you have a breaker that's bad right out of the batch. So you just want to feel as you turn the breakers on for good crisp action, and use a digital multimeter to check every single, those are spares, so those are off, every single breaker, both poles of each breaker. What do I mean by both poles? I mean L1, L2, both exposed hot terminals. That side's all good. Flip it over here. If everything's good, then I'm going to go back, turn off main power, torque it all down to spec. Ooh, what is going on there? Oh, there it is. Funny, I just wasn't getting good contact. There's just the slightest bit of corrosion on that terminal. There it is. Anything that's particularly deviant, like if you got a 110 out of the blue, like that's something to take a look at. Investigate that, turn that breaker off, back on, and figure out why you're not getting a good, solid, consistent voltage all the way down. All right, we're set. Let's torque our connections. So my commentary, the difference between this torque screwdriver and the Nico that I'm used to is it's so, this one is so lightweight, compact, variable length shaft, comfortable, like you can tell you're working with best in class. It's really nice. Maybe I'm gonna do all the single pole breakers here because then I've got to change the torque based upon breaker size and wire size. But the only thing that's kind of cumbersome is you've got to use the tool that comes in the kit to change the torque, whereas the Nico, you just twist the butt of the handle. So that is the one detraction. I can say for this price point, I'm not gonna be buying one of these for each of the guys on the team. They're cool, like that would literally cost me almost $10,000. So it's just for me right now. It's real comfortable. And even though it's got this small handle, it's really grippy. So you're not struggling to get the proper torque. Last one. Ah, beautiful. All right, now we've got to do all the neutral and ground terminals. I'm going to start here with flathead since that's what I've got queued up. And I'm looking for specs. Probably have to check the cover for those. 20 for small terminals, which is there. Clicks in, but you gotta slide that up to lock the bit in. So 20. Yeah, to get 35 with a small handle like this at the end of the workday and tired forearms and and down, swapping again. Go to our number 2 square drive, polish these off. That's everything. Okay. I like it. Guys, Wiha, link in the description for sure. This is a winner for professionals only. All right, things are cranking. Quick spot check just to make sure. I mean, you never know if you cycle a breaker, things could go haywire. See right there, we're getting 6 volts. But the reason is because we have an enameled finish. We've got to make a good connection. So I'm going to come down here to that connector. I bet that's really going to improve that situation. 123, baby, there it is. All right. So watch out for the enamel coating, paint coating. It will inhibit a good electrical connection. There are codes about that from multiple standpoints. Do a little fit and finish, tidy this place up, apply the trim ring, the access panels, the cover, and then start the setup process. This is part of the SPAN site survey, is understanding your data and communications. So the customer and I talked about it, and we were prepared. All right, it's time to reassemble the pieces I took apart. The only reason those two are taped together is because I didn't want to lose my Cat 5 down the wall. Let's take the on cue and plug it back in. I recommend every home has a structured wiring cabinet like this. Some will use it more, some will use it less, but it's a great place to house all this stuff. Got a power outlet in the bottom. I mean, these cabinets cost like 40 bucks, right? So it's a pretty way. Now this one's not the prettiest. That's all right. It's definitely doing its job. It's a great way to house your datacom. And you can get them larger, smaller, cheaper, more expensive. You can get anything you want. I'm taking my gloves off while I work with this. Last thing I want is smudges all over it. Okay, yep, that's it. Well, you know, not every job turns out the way you want it to. But as my father always said, shoot for the stars. And the worst thing that can happen is you might get tangled up in the power lines. But this one's actually turning out pretty well. Without scratching the face. I'll do it from the back side. Kneel on the cardboard. Little luxuries in life, right? It's the little things. So guys, let's talk a minute about what SPAN might cost you. So on their website right now, and they've been through one price increase this year, just like everything and everybody else. But they're listed at about, like, I think it's $4,400. However, you can't get SPAN direct unless you buy in like pallet quantities, like multiple pallets. So you got to go through distribution. We use CED Green Tech. Now, there's going to be another markup on there of I think it's like 12%. So you're up right around like $5,000. So now you're in it for $5,000 for equipment. Now SPAN's got this nifty thing called SPAN Drive, and that's a load management electric vehicle charging system. It looks great, just like the SPAN product. And if you've got a 200 amp panel, you don't have the capacity like this one to add a 2-pole 50 or 60 amp breaker to the panel. Now it's got the breaker space, but you don't have the headroom on the panel. Then SPAN Drive takes care of that load management for you. So it's an intelligent EV charger, and it comes in at a reasonable price point, like 850 bucks, give or take. So you can get out the door with SPAN for under $6,000 on the hardware. Now, a lot of times your electric vehicle charging in a garage like this, you got to go up through the attic and come down at an appropriate location, or you might be able to go right underneath the panel in this case, but you're going to be in it for another probably at least 500 bucks on top of equipment, more if you're pulling permits, depending on your jurisdiction. Some of our jurisdictions in Indianapolis require permits for electric vehicle charging, and some do not. It's a mixed bag, so you got to know your territories. And then, like I mentioned, whatever your panel install number is for labor and incidentals, you're going to be at least 3 hours on top of that, plus some contingency. So you've got to, you got to know your numbers. If you want to jump on a call with me and talk in more detail about SPAN, business, numbers, labor hours, labor rates, I would love to do that. There's a link in the description. If you're building a house, just like a customer in Salt Lake City, we're going to have a call and chat through the best equipment, design, grounding, any question that's on your mind. So check the description. We can virtual chat together. Okay. So the customer had an Ethernet cable instead of our patch cable. We're thinking that's the cause that our Ethernet connection wasn't coming online, even though it appears that our equipment's all working here. So this is going to be the moment of truth. The hard part left to us now is finding the end of the tape. Hey Steve, it's Joel out of Indianapolis. I am commissioning a span panel and I received an error that said to call span.
All right. So this is Joel. I think you and I may have spoken before.
Man, you have a great memory.
We get a few calls here. So what is the error you're seeing, Joel?
It says gateway-services.
Okay. That's a pretty easy one to fix here. If you would give me the serial number of the panel, I think we can get you squared away in short order.
That'd be great. I'm going to flip the cover here nice and carefully.
All right.
Everybody's okay on our end. That's the old panel cover.
Yeah, a bit of clanging there. Joel, if you don't mind, just for my records here for ticketing and such, do you mind giving me your last name?
Walsman.
Thank you. That's a great Wi-Fi name they've got there, Train Crushers.
You like that?
Okay, what I'm going to do, Joe, I'm going to reboot the panel. It doesn't impact any of the loads. It's strictly a microprocessor type of a reboot.
Okay.
And it takes it about 3 minutes. And then once it does that, more than likely it's going to do a firmware update automatically. And just to give you a little background on this error, it was a certain version of firmware that had this, I'm going to call it a bug in it. The fix has been, when we encounter these, we reboot the panel and it will automatically do a firmware update. And then the problem goes away and you never see it again.
Okay, that's good.
And just an FYI for you while we're talking, the end of the weekend or after hours for us, you can do the same thing, the reboot, by pushing the reset button, which is up in the very top left section of the panel. There's like a hole, and it actually has, of course, it's tone black, but it says reset beside it. And you need like an instrument screwdriver or a pencil or something it's recessed. So you just press it for maybe 5 seconds and let go, and then wait for it to finish its boot up, and that'll cure it as well.
Ah, I see it. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, you bet.
Yeah, you said self-test?
Yes, that last check.
Okay, looks like the what's showing on the app is something went wrong. Should I close that out and go back?
Yeah, I guess so. If it may have caught it while I was doing something as well. So I'm going to keep my fingers off of it and let you do it.
Okay. Running test, all good.
All right. That is great. Well, I think that should take care of it. You should be ready to send an invite to the homeowner and send him a copy of their schedule.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Steve.
Oh, you're welcome, Joel. And I hope you can wrap up and get started on your weekend.
Thank you, sir. You too. All right, pop these latch side knockouts out. Slip them in your pocket. Try not to send them through the wash machine. And we're getting close. Getting close. Look at that. In case you didn't catch it, part of the installer process is to label the breakers. Span prints a beautiful fillable PDF boom right there. So you've got a thorough breaker map, nicely formatted, not dependent on the quality of your handwriting. Look at that. There's a relief on this side. Grab panel, slide it open, and there it is. Wow, it's pretty sweet. I'm tired, it's Friday, it's 7:39 p.m. That's a wrap. Click here for our next video and subscribe to Electric Pro Academy for real skills to make real money.